Hi, Eric. Nice to see you. Hi, Anna. Hi, Minesh. All right, guys. I think so. Everyone's here. Maybe let's just give it like one more minute or a couple of more minutes just to make sure that everyone's like tuning in. Don't want to start too far ahead, going into the details too early.
Okay. So we go live at 10:20, right? In 2 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes. That is correct.
So I presume that we're following the same format of the questions that you sent.
Yeah. So the questions is just like a rough idea of what we're gonna kind of go into in terms of the questions. I mean, obviously, feel free to elaborate and talk more about it. But it's just kind of a guideline for you guys to kind of talk about your story, your business, and what your thoughts are. All right. So Anna, which time zone are you in?
I'm based in London, so
Okay.
it's 11 o'clock essentially in the morning.
Right on. And Eric is in.
I'm an hour behind Anna, so it's 10 in the morning.
Okay. Nice. Or it's around 6:20 p.m. here in Hong Kong.
Okay, in Hong Kong. So there's a lot of protests back on the protesters is back on the street. It looks like the situation is getting out of hand.
Yeah. Just this morning they were on the streets as well.
Yeah, I was seeing in the news, and then yesterday they took down Jimmy Lee, the media guy. There's a whole story about him.
Yeah, there's a lot of coverage right now. I guess internationally, it's kind of become like a kind of media centerpiece for a lot of the news outlets. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy. If you go on the streets, sometimes you might just get in the middle of a kind of like standoff between the police and the protesters. It's pretty crazy.
How's all this being managed COVID-19? Because I'm like,
guys, I want to say you that we are on here. Our viewers were looking for you, and you are discussing about something else. They are going to be in topic.
All right, guys. Okay. All right, guys. Perfect timing, guys. All right, let's go right into it. All right, thank you, guys. So our session here today is talking about the golden rule of the digital age, so transforming leadership and business. I mean, welcome Minesh, Anna, and Eric. I'd love to hear more about your profile. So maybe starting with Minesh, maybe you can give us like a quick 30 to 1 minute kind of bio on yourself. Give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then we can go from there.
Okay. So my background, as you can see, it is the BuyHive. That's my company. You can see the logo there. But basically, I'm the CEO and co-founder of BuyHive. We started the company pretty much in November 2019. I left my full-time career after 20-something years working in the corporate world in about 5 different countries. Took the plunge into entrepreneurship. Good news. We're only 5 people, but we've done 7-figure profits already. Right. And we're growing very fast. We're not really spent too much money, but the business has been exploding. And it has only been because of very quick pivots and pretty much thanks to COVID that we are doing good. And I'll talk more about the business later as we talk.
Awesome. All right, thank you. And maybe Anna can go next.
Sure. So I love introducing myself as economist by education, ex-investment banker by training, and multi-award, amongst others, Forbes Under 30 winning entrepreneur that has actually entered the world of consulting. So basically, I had a chance to see kind of the growth of the company from the entire cycle of the growth of the company, from, bootstrapping startup to high growth to multi-million funded companies to essentially working in the corporate world at the very heart of, finance, which is investment banking. So yeah, I wear a hat of a CEO, of a consultant, and as someone who worked as an analyst in the corporate world.
Right on. Thank you very much, Anna. And Eric?
Yes, so I'm Eric Osiakwan, and I run Chanzo Capital. Chanzo Capital is a venture and growth fund based out of Mauritius. And our fund is called the King's Fund, which essentially focuses on the King's countries, Kenya, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa.
Right.
Our first fund invested in 16 companies. So, and we have 12 of them going. So we have 12 companies in the management. We take a regional focus with the Kings, and then the sector focus is fintech, agtech, cleantech, edtech, health tech. So those are the 5 countries and 5 sectors. We have an office here in Accra, where I'm based. We have an office in Nairobi and Johannesburg. So that's our operational field on the ground. And there are 3 partners spread across these 3 geographies.
Wow.
And that's what we basically do.
Right on. Thanks so much, Eric. I'll give a little quick introduction about myself as well. My name is Andrew. I'm a co-founder of LimeHK. It's a local Hong Kong-based accelerator program. So we get in touch with a lot of different startups here in Hong Kong, trying to expand into the Asia APAC region. So as per our topic, I mean, getting right into a business side of things, because I think all 3 of you guys are heavily dealt with different businesses. Maybe I'll direct my first question at Minesh first. How did you have the idea to start off your own business? Because I remember you mentioned that you started the business only 6 months ago. So I kind of want to learn more about how you actually got started. What made you, make that decision to, quit the corporate job and go into the business?
So BuyHive, I'll have to explain you a little bit about BuyHive's very high level, and then tell you why we got into this. So BuyHive is a platform that we created pretty much to become the Uber of sourcing, right? It sounds very cliche, but it's basically democratizing sourcing. And what our assumptions were, because I come from the sourcing world, 20 years working in Taiwan, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Mumbai, New York, and London, I realized some of the issues that were there. And my previous company, that was a NASDAQ listed company called Global Sources, I was managing all their international business, and my co-founder and the CEO of my company was the CEO of the NASDAQ listed company. We got bought by Blackstone. And once we got bought by Blackstone, we realized that we were not solving any problems anymore. All we were doing was increasing profits for the company or reducing costs for the company, but we're not really creating anything, not really solving any issues. So we wanted to solve a problem, and we did not know about coronavirus then. We did not know about Hong Kong protests then, but we wanted to solve a problem when people cannot travel to come to China or to the different parts of the world to buy products that they need in their countries. Products are still being made in different countries and shipped to all over the world, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. So if they are unable to do that, if they are not able to travel, what are the solutions, and how can we create digital solutions to make sourcing easy? And that's how we created BuyHive. So if you see in simple words, the main reason was the hunger to solve a problem.
Right. That's definitely very interesting. In terms of like disruption, are there any similar competitors or businesses that are doing something similar as you guys? How do you guys find in terms of coping with these competitors?
So the idea for the business, or the dream that I have for the business that we are moving towards, is to disrupt the Alibabas of the world and to disrupt the Li and Fungs of the world. So those are the competitors. And we've been very successfully able to break into some really important clients and help some really important clients. For example, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, or the Department of Health of UK, or the NHS of UK, or the state of New York. These are all our clients in less than 6 months.
Wow. And then I guess going to Anna's, you run a couple of businesses yourself as well. I mean, how do you look at disruption in terms of different industry? Because I know you run an online academy as well. How do you guys deal with specific ways of transferring, like the education space, for example? How do you guys cope with that?
One of the businesses I run is Distributed.Academy. So we provide educational workshops for institutions around blockchain technology. And basically, it's primarily run by blockchain developers, in fact. Obviously, I'm on a business side. And what we do, we always deep dive into the business models, into the sectors, and we basically help corporate people, essentially institutions, understand what's blockchain technology, how can it can be applied to different, aspects of the business, industry-wise, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are the risks associated, and what are the alternatives, essentially. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of bespoke educational workshops on blockchain to understand how it can transform specific sectors. So from healthcare to real estate to financial services.
Right.
Apart from that, in the past, the business that I won Forbes Under 34, it was something completely different. After investment banking, financial services work, essentially, I jumped into transforming nightlife industry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very, very different. So basically, I figured out, it's a multi-billion-dollar sector. UK is worth 56 billion pounds. Everyone goes out. Everyone loves socializing, but at the same time, people don't know where to go, what's happening. And then venue owners don't have efficient marketing tools, data analytics tools to attract customers and build relationships with. So we basically developed an app for the nightlife sector back then in 2016. Touch wood, it's already this transformation wouldn't be happening now because of COVID, obviously. So it's a massively affected sector, entertainment and nightlife, that's basically, now it has totally stopped and it's in financial troubles. But back then it was, very well-performing technology that, it was from B2B to C. And it was fascinating, to introduce something new to the sector that is so little disrupted by tech.
Right. In terms of, I guess, disruption, I think, Anna, you mentioned like blockchain. How is that kind of buzzword coming into, I guess, investment and venture capital, I guess, going to Eric's, is blockchain something that you guys are really focused on? Is that a word when say blockchain, it's a technology that disrupt a business? And then how do you guys view blockchain and this industry with COVID hitting? Has that really taken off in terms of like what you guys invest in terms of startups? Maybe Eric, you can give an overview of what sort of disruption in terms of like, the digital age you guys focus on.
Right. So from our perspective, I need to give some background. So we as a fund have an important ethos, which is that we really invest in entrepreneurs and not in technology. So we believe that the entrepreneurial pursuit is a pursuit about people.
Right.
And people create technology and people apply technology. The second important principle from that is that we believe in the application of technology. So we don't invest in technology. We invest in what technology is used for. And the third ethos is we believe in applying technology to solve critical needs.
Right.
And if you look at the African continent, it's a place where there's so much need. And so we look for entrepreneurs that are able to look for the right technology to solve existing problems. And by doing that, they do not only create businesses, but in the process, they add value. And in the process, they make impact. So we believe that impact is ingrained in our DNA, in the sense that we don't need to measure impact. We believe that the most successful businesses in Africa are going to be businesses that solve challenges in society. And by doing that, they'll be making impact and they'll be making profit. And so we apply the PPP principle, people, profit, and planet. So this is a very important background for us. So now let's kind of respond to your question. So we believe that blockchain, it's a new technology that can be applied to solving problems. So for example, we invested in a company called FinAccess. FinAccess, FinAccess.co is based in Kenya. So they're trying to solve a problem in Africa where a lot of the mom and pop shops that does savings and small loans called SACCOs. In Kenya, they call them SACCOs. In South Africa, they call them Stokvels. In Ghana, we call them Susu. Basically, this is an age-old tradition where people save based on their tribe, their religion, they belong to the community. They save money and they lend to each other. I mean, I'm sure this happens in Asia and happens in almost developing markets and also, I guess, to some extent, developed world. But this is an informal part of our economy, our society. So what this guy decided to build was basically build a tech platform that allows you to formalize that process. Mm-hmm. And it basically involves blockchain as a technology behind the engine that is built, right? So essentially it creates a ledger where you are able to see whoever belongs to a circle, get a sense of their profile, get a sense of the lending, their savings, and then also be able to get a sense of their lending. And through that, they're able to do that by building a credit score using their mobile phone usage. And most of this data is coming from their mobile money usage. Now, somebody may ask, what is mobile money? So in Africa, your money is on the phone. In the West, your money is on the card. It's on a credit or a debit card. In Africa, the credit and debit card is not known. The mobile phone is the device that has the money. Okay. And so that's what we call mobile money. And the way mobile money came about is that in Africa, most people prepay to use the phone. In other words, you have to put some amount of currency value into your phone, either by buying a scratch card for $10 or $5, and then you load that airtime into your phone, and then you're able to talk. Mm-hmm. So you prepay the means by which you communicate. So Safaricom, which is one of the leading mobile operators in Kenya, decided to reverse that equation and turn that airtime that you buy into currency. So in 2007, they launched something called M-Pesa, which was a way to take that credit into currency for electronic transaction. During the election violence of 2007, 2008 in Kenya, that technology became the way to transfer money because people were immobile. And that made M-Pesa become the biggest technology spread in Kenya and today in Africa. And other technology companies have adopted it. So the general term that is used for that is mobile money, MOMO. So in Africa, that's how most people in very remote areas, farmers, you name it, that's how they're able to transact electronically using mobile money as the electronic cash.
Right, because a lot of times, like, they probably don't have access to, financial banking institutes. Like, they probably need to use their mobile phones on the go to really work around their transactions, right?
Right.
Perfect. Right on. I mean, that's very good insight as well. I mean, in terms of blockchain, it's really helping skipping that phase of like that traditional financial institution, where they're jumping from having no infrastructure at all to going into a mobile kind of currency. And I guess blockchain is kind of leading that into a technology revolution there. I guess
so here you see there is that FinAccess is taking mobile money, which is sort of a local low-scale technology that uses SMS, by the way, it doesn't use internet, and then takes blockchain, which is a very high-scale technology, and then creates a core banking platform for these circles, right? So here's a classic case of applying technology to solve a very critical need. In Kenya alone, the circle, this informal banking and lending sector, controls $7 billion. So the $7 billion of Kenya's economy that the central bank doesn't see. We're hoping to see that on our network. That's the network we're building.
Right on. And I guess earlier, Eric, you mentioned that when you guys invest in companies, you guys also invest in entrepreneurs. I guess that really brings into our other topic in terms of leadership. And maybe I could point to Minesh, maybe if there's any advice for young entrepreneurs that you mentioned earlier that you might want to give in terms of starting a business. What are some of the leadership qualities or some of the thoughts you think you would look for?
So, like I told you, my background has been a corporate career. So for being an entrepreneur, I'm very young. I am a 6-month-old entrepreneur. Yes, my business is much better and business is doing good. And we needed to fund the business from anywhere else. And hopefully we'll never need to fund it from anywhere else. But what I tell young entrepreneurs or whoever wants to start their business is the first thing you focus on whenever you start a business is revenue for the business with your business model, not raising money, not about the available capital in the market, not about the available opportunity in the market and all those things. It's all jargons. The only reality is revenue from your client. If your client's paying for what you're selling, and if you're making money from what you're selling, your business is successful. And as a leader or as the entrepreneur in charge of that business, your focus should be zeroed down on that revenue from selling, nothing else.
Right. So
nothing
what
else
advice?
Everything else is bullshit.
What advice would you give in terms of the market scene? Because sometimes when we deal with startups here in Hong Kong as well, a lot of times the founders, they're very laser focused on solving their own problem, or they think that there's a solution. But when they actually roll out the solution, the market doesn't really seem to reflect that. So what kind of advice in terms of, I guess, leadership skills for entrepreneurs, how would they pivot from that, say, if the solution isn't 100% fit?
You have to be humble, and you have to accept that what you build is not going to work, and there is no shame in that. You should not worry if you feel within a week of building something and having spent some money on it and stuff. Don't get emotionally attached to any of these things. If you are not pivoting, you're not a startup. The whole reason I left the corporate world, because we couldn't pivot fast enough.
Right.
When you become a corporate company, you will become, if you're a successful entrepreneur, you're going to become a corporate company. When you become a large company, the biggest challenge with large companies is they cannot make decisions as quick as a startup. They cannot pivot as fast as a startup. So if you are a startup founder, don't worry about having failed projects. Don't get emotionally attached to them. It doesn't say anything bad about you. It says bad about you if you saw there is a problem, but just because it is something it was your idea, you get stuck to it. Sometimes and in my business, in these 6 to 7 months, I've had lots of my ideas that were not working, but there were advisors, there were people from outside who gave ideas, and I thought, oh, that is much better than mine, and we got to move, and we got to get into doing something else that will make us money. But again, the laser focus that we had was not on how I'm building the technology, what technology I'm building, whether I have the blockchain and AI in my platform working, etc. That was least of my concern. My concern was, by using it, am I going to get revenue or not get the revenue? Whether I'm going to start making money or not make money? How quick can I pay myself as much as I was getting paid in a corporate job? If that doesn't do it, then I don't want to do it.
Right. And just to be humble and just to make sure just taking all different advice and I guess different sort of consultations from mentors as well, right? Definitely. Yeah,
it's not getting emotional about your ideas and your thoughts, right? Because we all see, one of the biggest things that startups, and I'm a very stubborn guy myself, but I feel that when I was in the corporate world, I would not listen to anybody. But as an entrepreneur, it's best in your interest to listen to everybody.
Right. Definitely.
Because you don't know everything.
Exactly. I think that really ties down to, in terms of like leadership, over managing of multiple business as well. I guess with Anna, like, how do you find leaders to run? Obviously, you can't run all the business. The priority is to kind of delegate tasks, delegate your responsibility out. So, what sort of traits would you look for in terms of like a leader running different business or business companies that you run?
Yeah, let me also follow up on the previous topic, because I absolutely love basically product and building excellent product. And actually, to Minesh's point, it's so important to listen to your customers, which actually ties with leadership as well. But because one thing is a visionary leader, that's absolutely important, and which is one of the traits of a great leader. But second thing, it's actually listening to your customers and building products people love. And as many entrepreneurs or leaders are very stubborn, and they have to be as well, because they have to go through so many challenges and wear so many hats. They must listen to customers, whether they're like business customers, B2B or B2C customers. They must pivot. They must run A/B testing to understand which points work, which points don't work. So I would say that that's absolutely crucial and important to, at the same time, be very determined and have a vision and make people follow you, but at the same time be humble enough to actually listen to your surroundings, to your customers, to your teammates and best out of your teammates as well.
Right.
And in terms of other leadership traits, I think it's extremely important, especially in the technology world, to be ethical leader, because you're building technologies that are touching hundreds of thousands or million people. So it's so important to have a strong core as well. So I think ethics are absolutely crucial. It's important to have empathy as well, because people who choose, for instance, entrepreneurship and startups as their path, they want something different than corporate world as well, right? It's more kind of relationship based. It's much more creative. It's kind of your team, it's your family, and the culture in a startup is so crucial to its success as well. So I would say that's a very important trait, is to have empathy as well.
Right. So how do you build that kind of culture though? Like that leadership culture, like obviously a lot of different business that you own, how do you kind of create a culture around leadership to kind of empower those that are kind of working for a specific company that you guys run?
Yeah, so it starts at, basically it starts with recruitment. That's the first thing, right? Like you recruit people that first, are already bought into your vision, that applied for this job, not because this is another job or role. It's because they believe in it and they want to basically be part of the story. So I would say that first it starts with the recruitment, or it starts with the co-founders you find, which is another absolutely crucial aspect for setting up a company, like, to have a very solid co-founders. So it starts there. And then basically, I guess it's like with product testing, like you work with someone for 3 months, 2 months. I would say it's very relationship based again, very kind of open communication, open expectations. And I would say even delegation of work and full ownership of the project. So that's what I tend to do. It's like, okay, this is your kind of department, let's call it like that. And, this is your role to kind of basically fulfill your potential and exceed expectations. So I would say delegation is absolutely crucial, which is for some, it might be difficult and tricky, especially for, startup CEOs who love to, get stuff done themselves. But I saw it working really, really well. Actually, it helps to really achieve a massive success through, delegating to the right people that, obviously are, bought into the vision. So the delegation is really, really crucial. I would say it starts with the recruitment, then it's a bit of testing, obviously, open communication, and then delegation to basically so people can as well fulfill themselves in the roles, and that they feel they're part of something and they feel they're building something greater than just, 9-to-5 jobs, essentially.
Right. So in terms of leadership, going to Eric's side, as a startup entrepreneur, like what sort of traits, or how would you kind of advise them in terms of like recommending them to grow their business? So what sort of traits that you would look into a startup, besides, because you guys mentioned earlier, you guys look into the founder, you guys focus on their vision, you guys focus on what they can do. So is there any specific leadership traits you can kind of like give some of our audience things that you would look for? I mentioned, because Anna mentioned, delegation of responsibility, how you guys can, is there any specific traits you would look for in an entrepreneur that you guys are, hey, these guys really would work? You guys see that specifically in a founder or a startup?
Right. So when we look at entrepreneur, a couple of things that we look for. Obviously, we first want to work with somebody who is honest, or somebody who is what we can take to the bank, somebody we can build trust with. We also want to find somebody who's visionary, somebody who can see beyond the now and has painted a future that he's trying to take his team to. So the thing about leadership is that a leader is somebody who is able to see into a future that sometimes it's even difficult to explain, and even they themselves may not have the exact paths to get to it, but they can work through the darkness to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we want to see on somebody who has that ability to communicate a future that is currently unknown or is unavailable. The third, which is most important for us, is to then also see this person as somebody who is able to execute and be able to take the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, second, minute steps to get to that ultimate vision. And one of the key defining principles around that is how they set up a team around them. And because there's no company that is ever built by one person, but it's always started by one person, right? So, or two co-founders. So we are not very big. I mean, we like to buy co-founders, but we bought single founders. The third important principle, the premise is that that person must be able to build a team around him or herself, or they, if they are two founders, around themselves to be able to execute. Because ultimately, the entrepreneurship game has two fundamental legs. It's an execution game and it's a team sport. So if you don't know how to build a team, or you cannot build a team, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur. You may have the terrific idea, but you cannot execute alone, which boils down to the points around delegation, having trust in other people, and rallying them around your vision to be able to accomplish that. And so being able to set up a team to execute the vision is the last of the three things that we look for in the entrepreneur. And building that team involves a lot of things. One of the critical factors in building a team is be able to set up your company culture. What kind of culture that you want to communicate as a business, so that every person that comes into the company must be able to align with that company culture. And the company culture is derived somehow from the vision that you're able to set up as an entrepreneur. And so for us, those are the leadership principles that we look for in the entrepreneurs that we back.
Right on. So I guess recapping everyone's kind of comments on this thought is obviously to be very humble, to be honest, and to be responsible, obviously to build a really strong culture within this startup. And being entrepreneurs yourselves, all three of you, I guess I kind of want to wrap things up in terms of like motivation, in terms of being leaders, like what motivates you guys? Starting Minesh, how do you motivate yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so the issue that motivated me to start the company was the fact of seeing the problems in the sourcing industry, which I am in the supply chain industry, and seeing that people will not be able to travel as much. We were thinking more from a budget perspective, we're thinking more from a green perspective, we're thinking more from just the way the retail space is changing around the world. But having that as a passion was what driving me and my co-founders to start the solution. And I think that's very important.
Right. So actually solving a real world problem that you guys identified. And maybe Anna, like what motivates you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so once I realized the power of technology essentially, and how many lives it can touch, how it can transform the way we live, how businesses operate, I just, got myself to the point that, I want to leave some legacy behind me, but also like, improve people's lives essentially at the very, very macro level, however cheesy it sounds. But yeah, essentially, use technology to influence people for the better. And I feel responsibility in a way that, I got to the core, I understood how products are built, how they're scaled, how to, run partnerships, how to run a business, startups. So now, I'm on a mission to basically support others as well within building their products and companies that are basically pro-impact.
Right, thank you. And I guess Eric, just maybe wrap things up for us in terms of like motivation as well.
So my motivation is that if you look at the 20th century, it was the century of Asia. Asia emerged as the most powerful continent. I believe that Africa is going to emerge as the continent of the 21st century, especially from digital technology point of view. And there are 4 mega trends that are driving that. I just wrote a blog post on that on my Harvard blog, and I put it in the chat window. So I believe that the 21st century is Africa's century, and it's going to be driven by young entrepreneurs that are using technology to solve incredible problems of the continent that will become the greatest companies in the world.
Right. Wow. That's a really big vision. That awesome. So I guess just thank you for your time, everyone.